Welcome back to the Codex, guys! Today we're unlocking a completely unknown territory, the reign of the Titans, and this insane entity fusion event. We're talking massive, planet-crushing entities dominating Mount Othrys, non-stop divine absorptions, and we're gonna clinically deconstruct the absolute mind-blowing details of the mid-air stealth cradle on the island of Crete. Just picture the scale of this for a second. The exact night the absolute ruler, Uranus, got completely dethroned and dismantled by his own son's scythe. As the cold energy pouring out of the Sky King seeped into the skin of Gaia, the Earth, the literal dirt started boiling over, spawning these completely unknown life forms. We're talking the Erinyes, goddesses of vengeance carrying unquantifiable weight, and the Gigantes, absolute units who could manhandle mountain ranges with their bare hands. Not to mention the Meliae, the ash tree spirits. This massive, awe-inspiring spawn wave was basically a heavy foreshadowing that the upcoming era was going to pack some serious philosophical weight. But the new rulers who descended on the ruins of that chaos, the Titan gods dropping in as a squad, they were literally overwhelming Mother Nature personified. Oceanus, a massive ocean current endlessly looping around the edge of the world. Hyperion, the Lord of Light who literally scattered blinding radiance into the atmosphere every time he blinked. Every time these planetary mass divine entities took a step on the golden earth, the laws of physics basically glitched out, completely rebooting the scale of the world. And us humans? Tiny as dust specks. We were just chilling under the thick, holy shadows of these giants, getting intoxicated by the lazy perfection of a flawless golden age, where hunger and cold didn't even exist. But you guys know the drill. The brighter the light, the darker the shadow. Right at the peak of this seemingly perfect peace, sitting on the highest, most brutal summit of Mount Othrys, was the black marble palace. And sitting on the throne in there was Cronus, the Lord of Time. But inside, his mind was getting completely eaten alive by this endless, obsessive need for control. Ringing in his ears like eternal tinnitus was the heavy prophecy Gaia and Uranus dropped on him the exact second he overthrew his dad.
Just as you stepped over your father's legacy to take the throne, you too will be violently dragged down from that massive throne by the hands of your own bloodline.
Look, the guy holding absolute power is always the most vulnerable to the one variable that could take it away. Instead of shaking up the universe like his dad did, Cronus chose a totally cold-blooded obsession, absolute control. It was this massive paranoia. I will not leave a single variable in my universe that could threaten me. And guys, the moment that freezing obsession crossed the line finally arrived. Soon enough, his wife Rhea gave birth to their first kid, Hestia, the literal embodiment of the warm hearth. But right as the joy of new life was about to spread through the whole palace, Cronus walked into the delivery room with a totally deadpan face. He snatched the newborn straight from his wife's arms, opened up this massive abyssal rift, and literally swallowed the divine entity whole. Just downloaded her straight into his own system.
The order of my universe only needs me. I don't need any new stars.
It was a freezing, overwhelming silence where not even a tiny cry was allowed. The exact second Hestia was absorbed into Cronus's pitch-black abyss, every single hearthfire keeping Mount Othrys warm instantly faded into gray ash. Rhea's deep, heavy sobbing echoed through the empty palace, but Cronus? Not even a micro-flinch in his eyes. But here's the truly chilling part, guys. This absorption glitch wasn't a one-time thing. When Demeter, the master of Earth's abundance, crossed into Cronus's abyss, the massive golden wheat fields along the horizon instantly dropped their heads and just stopped. When Hera, holding pure noble majesty, got absorbed, the atmosphere inside the palace got suffocatingly thick. The day Hades and his heavy abyssal weight got merged, the literal orbital path shook, plunging broad daylight into pitch-black darkness. And the moment Poseidon, the admin of wild tsunamis, was suppressed, even the sound of the waves crashing against the continents died down to dead silence. Listen, these massive divine entities weren't deleted. They were locked inside Cronus, a divine prison where time was permanently paused, just endlessly condensing their own mass. With all these gods hosted in one body, Cronus's physical form started causing severe gravitational distortions around him. Every time he took a breath, this overwhelming texture slammed the surroundings, like space itself was being crushed by pressure beyond physical limits.
Look at this, Rhea. Every single variable has been quarantined inside me. My reign will be this eternal.
My entire universe is sinking forever into this pitch-black abyss.
By the time Cronus's obsessive flex froze the palace over, Rhea, who was pregnant with the final divine entity, Zeus, finally swapped her grief for cold, hard resolve.
I am not letting him take any more from me.
On the darkest night, when even the starlight was muted, Rhea slipped right out of her husband's orbit and secretly went to her mom, Gaia. Deep inside the Earth, Gaia whispers a high IQ stealth protocol to her trembling daughter, a plan that would completely break the universe's law of causality. Rhea eventually bypasses the Peloponnese Peninsula, arriving at the rugged island of Crete, jutting right out of the middle of the ocean. Specifically, the Psychro Cave in the Dictys Mountains, where absolutely zero light gets in. And inside that heavy humidity and heat, the thunderstorm entity himself, Zeus, is finally born. All right, here is where we get into the mind-blowing details most people totally miss. Gaia gave a strict warning.
If the child touches the earth, Cronus will detect him through the earthquakes. If he touches the sea, he'll sense it through the waves. And if you leave him under the open sky, his clairvoyance radar will pick him up instantly.
So, what kind of big-brain strat did Rhea and the nymphs pull off? They brought out a brilliant golden cradle, laid the newborn inside, wove some ropes, and literally suspended the whole thing from a massive stalactite on the cave ceiling. Not earth, not sea, not sky, just mid-air. They literally created a physical blind spot that completely bypassed Cronus's system radar. How insane is that? Right there, the sacred goat Amalthea fed him life force concentrated with cosmic energy, and the spirits literally dabbed the essence of the forest onto his lips. But here's the problem. The very first cry unleashed by the newborn ruler of the universe echoed through the cave with a pressure that completely shattered physical limits. To block this sound wave from pinging Cronus's senses, Rhea deploys the Kuretes, a squad of fully armed priests. These guys formed a perimeter around the cradle and just started going wild, doing this raw, ancient Cretan war dance. Viciously smashing their massive bronze shields with razor-sharp blades. It was like watching this epic, heavy metal ritual. The blue sparks shooting off the bronze-on-bronze impacts gave this pitch-black cave a completely surreal, mystic vibe. These limit-breaking impact sounds stacked on top of each other, creating an absolute wall of sound pressure. The heavy breathing and bulging muscles of these priests basically became the ultimate, impenetrable firewall, protecting the infant god. Every time the kid let out a breath, the priests would go even harder, violently shaking their shields to drown it out. Now, for the final stage of the ultimate bait and switch. Rhea dug up the Omphalos stone from deep inside Crete's soil, a massive rock loaded with heavy cosmic energy. On top of that cold, rough rock, which felt just like a meteorite, Rhea intricately wrapped layer after layer of the softest, tightest fabric you could imagine. Cut back to Rhea, returning to the throne on Mount Othrys. As she walks between those gigantic marble pillars, there's just this suffocating suspense swirling around every footstep. When she stood in front of the throne and lifted the swaddled stone, her heavy robes brushed together, making this cold, razor-sharp friction sound. The exact second the two gods locked eyes in mid-air, the air crushing the palace completely froze over.
This is your final child, my king.
Rhea's voice had this micro-tremor in it, but guys, that wasn't fear. It was an Oscar-worthy performance to lock in her objective. The unnatural hardness radiating through the swaddle. Cronus should have 100% suspected something was off. But this ruler had extreme tunnel vision from his prophecy paranoia. He didn't even bother checking the contents before snatching the swaddle with his massive hand. And then he just opens his giant maw, and down goes the rock, fabric and all. This massive boulder made a sickening thud, like space itself was getting crushed the moment it dropped heavily into his deep internal system.
With this, the unknown prophecy has been completely deleted.
Rhea finally let out the breath she'd been holding, flashing this ice-cold smirk. Inside that prison of time he thought was perfectly under control, a fatal Trojan horse had finally been planted. Meanwhile, suspended mid-air in the Crete cave, baby Zeus was gobbling up life force, just explosively charging his energy reserves. And the divine entities locked away in Cronus's pitch-black core? They were armed with condensed willpower, quietly waiting for their moment of liberation. An arrogant giant who literally swallowed the seed of his own destruction. The countdown to a massive, universe-shaking paradigm shift quietly started right here. Now, Cronus's bizarre chain absorption glitch. Do you guys think it's just some extreme ancient myth? If we deconstruct this through modern philosophy and religious studies, it actually drops an incredibly heavy message. An absolute ruler at the peak of power, trying to violently force the future generation into his outdated system, just to suppress variables he can't control. In the end, all that does is trigger an unstoppable energy explosion, right from the most invisible blind spot. The very force used to maintain the system becomes the perfect blade of karma that dismantles it from the inside out. Classic mythology has been warning us about this brutal, freezing philosophical truth for thousands of years. All right, let's switch up the vibe here and do a quick fact check through the lens of modern physics, shall we? Compressing massive, planetary mass divine entities into a single internal space without even getting a stomachache? From a modern physics standpoint, the inside of Cronus's stomach had already shattered the critical point. We're talking an ultra-high-density neutron star where gravity infinitely collapses. No, scratch that. It was literally the event horizon of a black hole, meaning it was an unknown extreme environment with internal pressure hitting the billions. Plus, he swallows the Omphalos granite boulder Rhea handed him without even chewing, and didn't feel a single glitch in mass or digestive rejection? Seriously, what the heck kind of fabric was used for that swaddle? Did she coat it in some UPART-level nano-stealth metamaterial that jams both gravity-detecting radar and optical lenses at the same time? The ultimate showdown. This insane internal digestive power that casually defies physical limits versus the OP stealth swaddle. But hey, what can you do? That's just how mythology works. If you actually sit down and crunch the numbers, literally nothing makes sense. I used to be your typical hardcore engineering student, totally obsessed with flawless quality control and dynamic formulas. But after grinding as a researcher for this channel, I've developed the chill mindset to just be like, ah yes, the mystical cosmic swaddle, and move on. Alright guys, how does the fate of this unfortunate absolute ruler, who swallowed a cosmic anomaly without even noticing, finally get deconstructed? We'll keep digging into that insanely satisfying system crash in the next episode. Stay tuned.